Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. On today's episode, I'll be really short on this intro here. I talked to Evan Townsend of Project Spurs. We do a full first-round mock draft, talking about the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, a lot of the fits for some of our favorite prospects, and we alternate picks. It was a really great time. Don't forget to support Evan and all of his links down in the description below. Twitter will not be on the screen. I couldn't get it to work with the editing, so all of his links will be in the description below. Before we jump into that episode, don't forget that we are presented by SeatGeek here at the Two Pointers Podcast. Code 2Pointers gets you $20 off your first purchase if you're buying any concert tickets, baseball, sporting events, NBA playoffs, whatever you're doing. Feel free to get $20 off your first purchase. Code 2Pointers. Link in the top of that description will take you there into the app or onto the website to make that purchase. Greatly appreciate the support. Enjoy the episode with Evan. Joining me here today is Evan Townsend. We're going to talk a big here first round mock draft. We are super excited to do this. I did one of the Twitter space shows. This was probably 3 weeks before the lottery or so. And we did a conglomerate of different things. We talked about the NBA. We talked about the draft, but wanted to return the favor, and I'm glad to have you here. So how you doing?
Hey, man, how's it going? I'm super excited to be here. Still kind of, living off the dream that is Victor Wembanyama, but yeah, man, I was ready to get right into it.
For those that don't know, really quick, give yourself a little introduction of what you do, where people can find you. As always, Twitter's on the screen. All your links will be below as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm so
you're good.
super
Let
sorry.
people know. Let people know where
my name is Evan Townsend. I've been covering the San Antonio Spurs for a little less than 2 years now. I work for Project Spurs, only independent blog covering the Spurs way before even the social media age. And it's insane. They've been a super big blessing. I pretty much really just cover the team in terms of the draft. I do a lot of Twitter spaces, a lot of threads, a lot of just conversations. Pretty much, I'm just the guy that likes to represent the team, talk to everybody, pretty much just say like, hey, if this is nonsense, I'm gonna let you know. If this is a rumor, if this is something that people are just trying to push and double down just because they want to hear themselves talk, I'll let you know, all in a respectful way. The Spurs have done a very good job of, keeping the professional pedigree, but sometimes Spurs fans, man, they can be a little off edge. So yeah, I'm just kind of like I don't want to sound super self how do you say? I'm not trying to talk too highly of myself, but literally like I like to think that I'm the mediator in terms of Spurs Twitter. So if you follow me, a couple replies here and there every so often. So just heads up.
Yeah, I love it because this is I wanted to do this with you because, like I said, been on a couple of Twitter shows and wanted to make sure we got some time on my podcast here. So I figured a mock draft. Obviously, the lottery just happened. First of all, congratulations publicly covering the Spurs and being able to, your track record with number one overall big men in your team's history is not exactly that bad. So obviously that might be shining a light on Victor Wembanyama. And I'm not going to spoil anything here. We'll go ahead and get started on the mock. This is a good transition. The way I wanted to do this was I wanted to figure out either we talked a little bit before. And as people would know last year, I like to do mocks where if I'm the GM, what am I doing, right? Because I don't care what I think's happening, right? I can do a mock like that written. I can go out like a week before the draft once I get all the intel I'd like to hear. But if I'm Portland's GM or if I'm Orlando's GM, and I don't have a job, so I'm not going to lose it if I make a bad pick here, right? So I love to do it that way in these mocks, especially in podcast form, because it gives us a chance to explain ourselves, maybe make a take in that sense, put some stake in the ground there. So in fairness, for the fact that you are a San Antonio Spurs, we'll call him media member. That's what I like to do, media member, whatever you'd like to call yourself. Obviously, I was going to hand you the number one overall pick. So with the first pick in the Two Pointers Podcast first mock draft this year, who is Evan taking for the San Antonio Spurs? I feel so dumb asking that.
Man, I really don't like the nickname they're trying to run with this kid, but they're gonna call him the alien, and that's Victor Wembanyama. 7'4", 7'5". We'll get some real measurements, official measurements soon. He's in France. He's not at the combine. Obviously, the new CBA rules can't do that next year. You know what I'm saying? Can't do that next year.
That's right.
But Victor, I remember the day. Yeah, I was in my old apartment. I was like, who is this kid playing against Rudy Gobert? It looks like a stick. We're both wearing green, and I forgot who tweeted it first. It was an ESPN analyst, and then somebody else, and people were talking about obviously next year's draft, and then draft after that. But 16-year-old kid who's moving like Kevin Durant on offense, and on defense is the Rudy Gobert and just the super agile, the super mobile, the lengthy 8-foot wingspan, slender man. That's what they call him. Literally, it's just a dream. This kid can pretty much do anything and everything. Has confidence through the roof. Do you want me to talk about him for a little bit, or just?
I'm good with whatever. I mean,
I'm sorry.
We go 20 more picks, but at the end of the day, he deserves some of this. I do think that there needs to be, and this is going to be fun talking to a Spurs fan about it, but like, it is interesting though. Like, I think some of this stuff that I know Woj is reporting when he says this stuff, where he's like, GMs are saying that he's the greatest prospect in the NBA ever, which, okay, like I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And then it's like, okay, but he also might be the best prospect in North American team sports. And then I'm like, okay, maybe like that's something I'll have to research. And then he's like, also, people are expecting him to be the best player in the league by his third year. And I'm like, all right, that's where I have to draw the line. Like you're putting I hate when we put such an expectation on people and prospects in the NBA. Like I can give you 1,000 examples of guys in the last 20 years that we were like, here's their expectation. And they never met it and they were still awesome NBA players. And it's so frustrating. And I feel like this is a case where like we're gonna just trap this guy in a corner. Like not every guy can work out to be LeBron. Like that, it has to be understood. So I do think everything about him is warranted. I mean, I literally talked to somebody in the NBA, and I think it was late December. I said, don't laugh at me. I said, but tell me about Victor. Like, where are you with Victor? Like, I know that he's the number one guy and everyone's bored, yada yada yada. And he goes, I'm not watching another minute of his film because it would be wasting my time evaluating other guys. And I said, that's genius. I was like, that's a great point. Now, obviously, really deep diving his film, that's one thing, but like watching games that that come on 2 p.m. Eastern, whatever, great. But he's like, I didn't do a single like another deep dive again because it took time away from evaluating guys in the lottery and other places. I'm like, that's a great point, and that's literally what I spent this year doing. I did the same thing. I was like, you know what, you make a great point, and I haven't really studied him, quote unquote, since, because I don't think it's valid. Like, I think at this point, like, we know what we're at least, you know what you feel about him. And obviously, fan or not, right? We should know what we feel about this guy. So I am happy for you guys, though. I think it could have been, a couple other teams get him. And I'm like, oh, Lord, he ends up in Washington. Like, I just would have been like, what? I mean, nothing against Washington. They end up getting 8. I actually have their pick later in this since I'm doing even. So we'll see what happens there. But anything else about Victor? Yeah, you do whatever. You say whatever, man. I just want to make sure that people know, like, there's just some of this stuff needs to be settled down a little, like on like the GMs making these anonymous claims.
Yeah, no, I'll say this real quick. I think people saw, I think it was Zach Lowe tweeted about the chair.
Yes,
people already knew about that. We'll say another story. I'll just say this real quick. The Spurs did a really good job of not making it somewhat obvious that this was rigged. I'm joking, obviously. I'm joking, but I'm not joking.
There's only two places that it would have been rigged, and San Antonio was one of them. Yeah.
Jeremy Sohan and Wemby actually played together when they were teenagers. I think when
I did not know that.
12 and Jeremy was 14. I'll send you the picture, man.
That's crazy.
It's insane that literally Sohan had the brains not to, and kind of, I don't want to say just sell the fans a dream, but literally he was super humble. The team told him what to do, told him what not to say, and literally it's just a blessing. In terms of Tony Parker's birthday, that was the day before the lottery. R.C. Buford, the day of the lottery, and the chair. It's just like, the Spurs pedigree, the Spurs way. It just kind of fitting in terms of where we are in terms of the team, and we need superstar talent, and just some guy that just comes in with just swag. Do you remember when he went to Vegas and he came in with the shades and and LeBron dapped him up? We just need some, not obviously the national attention. I'm speaking to the mic here. The national attention is cool. That's great. We're gonna be on TNT again. That's awesome. But literally, for the city of San Antonio, My man, they've sold 3,000 season tickets since the lottery. Okay, phones have been buzzing. Okay, I may not be. If I sleep at 9 a.m. when tickets are released, and if I don't wake up on time, and if I don't get my media credentials in time, I may not be able to go to the game. Literally, I may
Fair.
not be able to go to the game. So, um, the city is gonna have just a whole new rebuild, not just the team. Um, I know I have to wrap things up here. We got to get to the mock draft, but literally, the AT&T Stadium that has not been renewed. Fans for the past 2 years have been worrying. The teams is a team moving to Austin? Is a team moving even to Vegas? Is a team moving to Mexico City? Somebody had told me a couple months ago. I'm just like, dude, the mayor had to step in. The GMs are of course saying we love San Antonio, we love the culture, we would never leave. Now it's like, okay, a complete different dial has changed, and we really got to turn things up. So we're super excited.
Hey, don't worry. I knew that, and I baked in the time to know that, like, I wanted you to have this moment because, like, it's, you've been good to me in this media space, and I wanted to return the favor. This is like this beautiful landing ground for you to just be like, I mean, to a degree, like we can be this or that and want to be like, but you cover the team. Like it's not like
Mhm.
you're this national media person that covers all teams, and then you're like secretly a Spurs fan. It's like you have every reason to be just as excited. And I'm, by the way, I'm not a Charlotte Hornets fan, but with I was going to be the same way. Like if I don't get, and I have somebody on the inside in Charlotte, so like if I didn't get those tickets, I'd have been mad. Like I know
Mhm.
it's Victor, but like, dude, come on, slide me some tickets, slide me some media credentials. Let's go. Let's have a great time.
I
Um,
feel you.
that is my segue into, I'll be very fast on number two because I just want to nip this in the bud. I understand that there are conversations. I'm not even going to fully address Gavoni's tweet today, basically saying that everyone in the room thinks that Charlotte is taking Brendan Miller 1000%. I'm not even going to touch that because it's so far away. But at the same time, it is Jonathan Gavoni, who, when breadcrumbs get put out there in his little pieces as he puts out stuff closer to the mock or closer to the
Mhm.
draft, once those breadcrumbs start showing up, that's what I take seriously. Is the ones that he can't say, but he leaves. But when he's saying it, it just seems so outlandish. It's like, all right, let me just give it a minute. So really quick, I think Scoot should be the pick. I think it's a grab it, grab it and forget it kind of thing. Like set it and forget it, like you say in fantasy football lineups. It's like a guy that you can absolutely be sure on, rely on. I mean, Scoot's the best prospect I've seen guard wise since John Wall. Got a chance to see John Wall here locally when I was younger, and it like he would be number one. I said this, I'm gonna end up repeating myself, sound like a broken record, but he would be number one in every draft in the last 10 years, minus this one, of course, because he's second.
Mhm.
Um, except for Zion Williamson's draft. Like he would literally be the number one overall pick in every single draft. I did go back and look at it, and I just think it's 100. Like he is one of the best prospects I've ever evaluated. And Charlotte at that point will have a smaller guard that they can play in different ways. They can use LaMelo's size to kind of mask some of the 6'2" long arm Scoot, try to figure out what he is defensively. At the same time, sometimes you just need guys that are just want it bad, and I think Scoot wants it bad. So um, I think it's a simple answer. I think that they would overthink it and take a fit thing, and that would be the most Charlotte Hornet thing or Mitch Kupchak thing in the entire world to take Brandon Miller. I'm not discrediting anything about Brandon Miller. I'm just saying that taking Scoot would, I think, ultimately end up being a mistake unless Brandon Miller's a top like 15 player all time. Like I just can't. Like I think Scoot's that good, and it would be for me if I'm, and we're doing this as GMs of these teams. So I'm Charlotte. I'm taking Scoot because it would be the best player on the board, and I think that's when you're bad, whether it was for 1 year or not. When you're bad, you need to take talent and let talent figure itself out a little bit. So this is my case for Scoot.
Yeah, that's I have to agree with you, man. In terms of where I believe, or I just feel Lamelo's mindset could be at. Obviously he was very disgruntled in Charlotte. Maybe you can speak on what you maybe know if you want to. Well, if you want to.
Nah, I don't want to touch that
But
with a 30-foot pole. Even if I do or don't, I don't want to do that to him or the team that I'm fond of. So I just,
he
yeah, I think that'll be
he
that'll be fine.
he's a superstar, man. The guy is in Charlotte, North Carolina. He needs not the easy phrase is say he needs help, but he needs to have his I can't say his confidence just rebuild. He's a super confident kid, but man, his on ball duties and his usage with Scoot. I know Scoot. People like to say that he's like a crazy, crazy, crazy playmaker. He's advanced, right? But he's not in the same tier as Lamelo. He's slightly below, slightly below. They obviously have super, just unique play styles. Lamelo has this like the Penny Hardaway magic type of feel. Gazelle like strides up the floor. Scoot Henderson kind of, I like to say, he has the hover cart type of movement, can play at all different types of speeds. LaMelo is a great catch and shoot, off ball type of opportunity, type of guy. And if you're thinking, like I said, the top when I started this excuse me, sorry, when I started this take, my mindset for Melo is okay. If half of my worries on ball are gone, and maybe my usage is down, but maybe hey, my stats are still up, and we're the Puma boys, and we're succeeding, and maybe we bring in some more of my friends. I hate to sound like it's just like a situation that's gonna just dwindle out and dire out. But if they can figure it out and get and stay like functional and flowing, that's a very good pairing. And that team can turn things around sooner rather than later. I know people like to harp on them, but yeah, with that pick, things will get going.
Yeah, their conversation's going to get even deeper when they have to figure out the Miles Bridges stuff. A lot of their aging veterans, Gordon Hayward here this year. So this is just to take the talent that's there and move on. So
Mm,
Portland
absolutely.
Trailblazers are on the clock. This is going to be interesting because I've seen a lot of things out there recently about who might be going here. So who are you taking if you're the Portland Trailblazers GM?
So I know that this is just a mock draft. Brandon Miller has only had a couple interviews for, and I believe all of them are Eastern Conference teams. And in this scenario, I know that we're not trading. We can't do all the packages. We don't have really a lot of time for that. But if Dame Lillard, the man is tweeting the storm, probably still right to this second. Um, I don't know what's going on in that man's head, but literally if he needs help, and if he if and if that immediate help is in this draft, the best player with the highest ceiling available and the potentially the highest floor is Brandon Miller. Now Brandon Miller off the floor, I'm not even going to talk about it. Decision making needs to be better, right? And in terms of his what I've heard on the floor, but off the floor, so in terms of like his body language, et cetera, and how he carries himself and his demeanor, there's been some issues. Say he starts the starts the game off 0-5. He's walking back to the bench. He's in foul trouble, not checking anybody's hand, walking back to the bench, towel over his head, looking down, checking himself back into the game himself at times. He's walking to the scores table, saying, "All right, let me just lace up my LeBrons. Let's get going. You come on, let's get out." I think Brandon Miller needs to be humbled. I think Brandon Miller has a two-way superstar potential. As a movement shooter, he was on fire the first 2-3 months of the season. Obviously, he didn't shoot well at the rim, but once he got it together, 10, 12 games in, there's really nothing you can say. People were necessarily accurate by saying that he's in the same tier as Scoot and maybe with the second overall type of caliber type of guy. But to close out the season, he was hurt in March Madness. He had a groin injury. He was not himself. You can't move your hips. You can't swivel. You can't cut. You can't. His right hand burst is not there. He only can dribble his right hand coming off of dribble handoffs. He can't really. He's not really a pick and roll threat. Basically, Brandon Miller needs to have a system where he can say, "All right, you're not going to be a 3D guy, but you're going to be this option. And if you want it or not, we have trainers or not. You need to do it. Shut up, and this is that." Real quick, just do you have any concerns? I know this is just me overthinking, but Jarace Walker is only 6'6". He's not 6'8".
I know
Is
we
that?
thought the no shoe thing. I know,
I'm
why they
sorry. I'm
changed this.
sorry. I'm
Well,
sorry.
and so there's a lot of guys that we saw without shoes, and we were like, and I could spend forever on the on shoes off shoe thing because they should have never changed it. Last time I checked, we play with shoes on in the NBA. But I don't really care because I think the physical. I think I got to see him in person this year, in a road environment, in the American, and that guy's. I mean, like he literally looks like he's an offensive tackle playing basketball, and it doesn't make
Yeah.
it's not fair. Um, so yeah, I really could care less. If he was 6'5", it still probably wouldn't bother me because I think he's that explosive and that versatile. So I think 6'6" is fine. By the time he puts shoes on, he's almost 6'8". So I think I actually think
That's
that might be an advantage because he's a lot quicker than people think. So I think, funny
very
enough, I
true.
think 6'6" might be an advantage where he's probably guarding 2 through 4 now instead of
Yeah,
three
no,
through four.
I'll say this in the small ball five era that's I'm not gonna say about to end, but teams are gonna be able to adjust and say, You have to be 6'9" to ride this ride now, not no 6'5", 6'6" nonsense they were throwing out the last couple of years. But Drace can play a little bit of 5 too. I really hate player comparisons, and I really hate saying shades of, but I gotta choose one. And I know we're talking about Drace here. We'll get back to the mock draft real quick. I promise. I promise. I promise.
You're good.
But Drace, I've seen him in person too. In Houston, literally, he was just the all-around connecting piece. I know that's just like the phrase people like to use to stamp with him: connector, connector, connector.
Yeah,
But
I only use, I use it very lightly because I do think it is a very, very like it's a very, very. I'm trying to figure it. It's a big compliment from me as an evaluator. I don't. There's only 3 guys in this class, and we'll get to them. They're all first rounders on my board. There's only 3 guys in
Mhm,
this class that I think are like connecting tissue type pieces.
mhm,
And to make you feel better about this, since she's first time on my show, I think player comps are fine. I will tell you what I do is I say reminds me of. So all it does for me as
very
an evaluator.
nice.
See, everybody keeps saying that like I invented this like crazy term. All I'm telling you is that when I write down a comp, and I'll never post them publicly anymore because they get misconstrued, and even if it is for clicks, whatever. But what I do is I just want to tell you, and I'll give you an example because we'll get to Keontae in a second. When I watch Keontae George, like if I close my eyes after watching a play of Keontae, this is not how I evaluate players. I just want to just for the example. I
Mhm.
literally see Bradley Beal. He's the same height, the same
Yeah.
fluidity. They remind I got that was one of the first drafts I really ever like started watching intently. So like I watched a lot of Bradley Beal back then, and they just are like if they just were the Kobe Jordan like thing where they put them over each other and they'd show the moves that they
Mhm,
both do at the same time, like with the little
mhm,
shadow with the ghost.
mhm,
That literally Bradley Beal and Keontae George. So I give that as an example of reminds me of. I'm not saying that this guy will ever be that player or is completely like that player. But what I do
mhm,
as a personal, like on my personal evaluations, I'll put reminds me of. And there's a lot of guys where like Jarris, I don't really have a good reminds me of because of the explosiveness. So I just think it's tough. But I like that you're in the camp like everyone else. Like player comps are not good because of X, Y, and Z
mhm.
reason. I agree with all those reasons. But if I were to give you one, and I'm sure we won't make it the full hour without me giving you one at some point. I
Mhm.
just gave you one with Keontae and Bradley Beal. When you hear me say comp, I'll just lazily say the word comp. But if I say a comp tonight, it is a reminds me of. So I'll try to be better about like reminds me of, but I hope the Keontae George Bradley Beal one is a good example, but it's just to give you an idea of what I mean by that. So I don't hate anybody that hates player comps. I think people intentionally on Twitter look for them to hate on them. So,
I've been killed in my mentions. I'm not even gonna say what I said, but literally I have to make sure you are. It's not about like impressing people, but like you don't want to necessarily stand out in the wrong way, and you don't necessarily want to look for headlines. That is clearly obvious when people do that too. So yeah, that's my 2 cents with that. 5 seconds with Jarris Walker. The shades of comparison I was gonna say. He reminds me of face-up game of Julius Randle with a little more agility and versatility, defensive and mobility of a Josh Smith, and at the rim instincts of a Bam Adebayo. At 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", no matter what size, and you're blinking. I know that's a lot. I know that's a lot. I know that's
no,
a lot.
I'm thinking
That's a
about it
lot.
and I'm trying to do the thing I just did with Keontae. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I'm here. Yeah,
and
paint me the
and
Picasso. I like this. This is good.
when you imagine somebody who I'm super big on knowing your role in the NBA and knowing exactly what you're basically what you know you're supposed to do and what the secondary reads possibly are and what you can make out of the play that may be completely broken up. Trace Walker is going to give his all and he's going to make that play on offense and defense. That's the beautiful part of it. But I'm not taking him at 5.
Well, he's
I
not
have
there.
to
I
take
took
him.
him, so we're good.
It, I have to take Amin
Yeah, I figured that.
Thompson. Now
That was who I talked myself out of at 4. Just to be clear,
and
like I'm not gonna
and
hide anything on this. So
and Rockets fans, I'm super cool with a lot of them. That if you're listening, the Rockets fans have the funniest spaces.
they're the
And
best.
oh, oh my
Shout out to Will and
and Brad.
yeah, shout out to Will and Brad.
There's a couple other them too. There's too many to name, but literally these guys are super cool and they have
James
a
Piercy is
really
another. He's been on the show multiple times. James Piercy is
mhm.
my guy. I love James.
These guys have a really big fan base and a lot of them have really funny personalities. And in terms of just getting through their discourses, arguments will be made in their chats and they're super high on Amin Thompson. But that back and forth, I was listening earlier today. They're saying some crazy stuff just for him getting interviews and breaking news. But in a more of a basketball note, Amin Thompson for the Pistons Man, so like we said, 6'7", 7 foot wingspan. The question mark of the draft in terms of where his floor is and where his ceiling is the definite. We have no idea what Amin Thompson will be in the NBA besides a solid playmaker, a confident kid, a great athlete, and a great defender. That sounds amazing, right? Now at OTE, these guys shoot from NBA three. He's been working on his three. He's been working with Jason Williams on his playmaking ability. Anything and everything I've heard about their work ethic, just both of them, real quick, is through the roof. These guys watch film. These guys know every eye is on them. Yes, their competition level isn't the best, and yes, Amin Thompson is there to shoot by high schoolers, and they're giving him the space to shoot, and he's not shooting well. I truly do believe Amin Thompson has superstar potential in this league. Now, in terms of him and his role with the Detroit Pistons, he's going to play the secondary connecting wing that is a ball moving wing slash point guard. I've kind of messed that up, but you know what I'm getting at. Pretty much, if Amin Thompson can learn from the likes of Cade Cunningham, who's slowly come back from injury, Jaden Ivey, who's a hybrid guard who's ready to get his usage up, it's going to go down with Amin Thompson. Not necessarily, but he's going to have to split the on-ball usage. The fit of knowing that you can't stop all their first steps and kickouts and their playmaking ability, despite Jaden Ivey's non-mid-range game, but he's working on his flow game. Pretty much all that is unstoppable if they have a good role man on the court and one shooter. One shooter. They don't have a head coach. I don't know what type of scheme they're going to run. They don't have any type of veteran besides Bogdan and the
He's
heart of
probably not
Isaiah
going to be there by the deadline. Yeah.
and the heart of Isaiah Stewart, who may not get re-signed. These guys are super young. Who knows what can happen? But in terms of having a good set core that is going to be electrifying on offense in transition and is well balanced on defense, Amin Thompson, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham. You can't call them a big three just quite yet. 4 or 5 years from now, all could be all stars. All could be unstoppable, literally from what their true positions are, and that could be scary. And I cannot pass on Amin Thompson. So I appreciate you for letting me fall to him, fall to 5. But yeah,
it was a tough decision in Houston. I wanted it bad, but again, this is what I would do. So I couldn't fall into my own trap.
Mm-hmm.
So Orlando at 6, and I want to get to closer to the lottery here, close to the 30-minute mark. So I'm gonna go quick. Orlando, because there's a lot of good guys in the 14 through 17, 14 through 25 range that we're going to end up spending more time on. So Orlando, I have 2 guys. I'm not going to say who they are, but I'm going to lean towards the guy that I saw ridiculous playmaking flashes that impressed me. And I think because of the situation Orlando's in, where I'm hesitant on their point guard future, I do think you need guys that can be secondary playmakers and guys who are bucket getters. So I'm taking Keontae George, and I think that's probably higher than most would expect. This is what I would do, but I will tell you that the guy that's 6th on my board, people who are listening to this, who have watched me or listened to me or read my articles, will know who that is. I will take him at some point before this is over, probably. But the guy that's 6th on my board is not who I take, because I think he would not be a good fit for Orlando as much as I love the guy. But I'm taking Keontae George.
And is 6 Cam Whitmore?
We'll get to. I'll reveal who it is when we get to it. I like that you don't know. This is good.
Okay, for sure.
All right, so 4. I'm updating the board as we went. So Jarris went to Houston. You took Amen, and I just took Keontae George, who I think, again, people are going to hear this and think that's ridiculously high.
No, that's
Indiana.
Fine.
Indiana is on the clock. Who are you taking?
That is a great pick, man. I'm gonna take Cam Whitmore now. In terms of the Indiana Pacers, these guys, they have 6 freaking picks in this draft.
Yeah, it's
6. 6 picks. Now, I don't believe they're going to bring in half a roster of teenagers. That doesn't sound very, very smart. And now, in terms of Cam Whitmore, we talked about floors and ceilings. A very safe floor. His ceiling is what I want to talk about. Man, now the flashes at Villanova, he didn't even start a lot of games. I know he came back from injury. I know Villanova's system isn't where what it used to be. But Cam Whitmore, those flashes are just so impressive. I know, percentages aren't the best. The splits aren't necessarily what you want to see him. But in terms of his just, man, super electrifying. I've never seen a man put back his own putback. You know, like in terms of Cam Whitmore and what he would do for the Indiana Pacers, you're looking at somebody who's coming off a dribble handoff, ready to slam on it as hard as Anthony Edwards. You're looking at somebody with Tyrese Halliburton's vision, um, coming off of a pun fake, coming off of any type of misdirection, Euro step. If you can find a way, find a way to turn into you don't need to be an advanced playmaker, but just a confident playmaker. That's just what's going to unlock him to be a 22 consistent point per game scorer in the league. I like to compare him. I hate saying this name, but I like to compare him to Miles Bridges. A Miles Bridges with a self-creation bag. Now, his defensive, he's just a super freak. First of all, his quick first step, super light feet, but man, his defense, that's what's going to get him paid for real. And now I forgot what his wingspan is top of my head, but I know he's built like a tank. I know he has what it takes. I hate saying flashes and I hate saying that over and over again, but man, it's a motor thing with him. I would like to believe that in a great system, he would buy in and he would be showing 100% effort, like how Kevin O'Connor said, he's the Ferrari with the what engine? What was it?
I don't
What was
remember. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the engine. Camry engine, probably,
it?
but Ferrari with a Camry engine.
I just think that Cam Whitmore is just all around professional and just a stud of a guy. I watched some of his interviews, and yeah, Indiana would definitely love to have him. It was tough passing on Asar. Asar, it could definitely be the small forward of the future, just as what better of a fit as Cam Whitmore, but I like Cam's ceiling. I like his floor and the potential, man. Is like I said, it's not through the roof. It's not as high. I can't have him in the same tier as the rest of these guys, but he's right below. And I would not be surprised if he's a top four, possibly even top three guy in this class, literally. So
Yeah, he's fourth on my board, and he's been top four most of the year, so I don't disagree with anything you said. I think that some of the stuff for him as an on-ball guy is going to be what I'm going to pay attention to, and I think Indiana's a great spot with Tyrese Halliburton as your point guard. It's going to be fine. All right, I've got Washington at 8. Now, the real question is, does Washington take a point guard? Not me, Washington, but actual Washington on June 22nd. Do they actually take a point guard finally? The answer is probably no. And what makes this even tougher is All-Stars on the board, of course.
oh man.
So it's like
Wow.
if I'm Washington, right, or if Washington's in my position, right, and All-Stars there, Kaysen's there, Jed Howard's there. Like Jed Howard seems like just such a Washington pick. Man, I think because of the floor, I do think this is not something Washington probably does, which is why I wanted to address the fact that this is what we would do. I think Washington makes dumb moves most of the time, and we've seen that. I'm going to take Cason Wallace because I think his floor is so good.
Wow.
The defense is awesome. And I think it's just, I don't want to sit here and waste my breath because I think he's just exactly what we think he is. His shot looked really good this year. I know the numbers were all over the place, and then they ended up looking pretty good in the year. But I do think Cason Wallace, I don't care. I think he's a ridiculous defender right this moment, and that's his NBA skill. And I think it's going to be really valuable for Washington, who can't stop anybody. So Cason Wallace is a very easy pick for me. You have Utah, but go ahead with Cason.
Oh, no, I just have to agree. I want to just say this real quick. If the Spurs trade up to get Cason Wallace, and they interview Cason Wallace today, fresh off the Wemby news,
it would be insane.
I move on. Let's move on. Sorry, I'm getting too
excited. One of the best defensive guards I've seen in a long time.
Man, and just a true professional back in Texas too. You love to see it.
Utah's an interesting place. Nine is an interesting place for Utah because they didn't really we all thought they were going to be in the Wemby sweepstakes in the top 4, and they weren't. So they were just better.
Thank God.
Which is weird. I mean, they just looking back on it, they're just that talented. And who is going to fill in that talent and continue to excel for Utah? For you?
Yeah, so Utah is going through a kind of a weird stage. Obviously, Lauri Markkanen is all-star. Great, cool. He can play 3 of the 4. Awesome. Mark Kessler, Nice. First team rookie. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Established. Defensive presence. Everything else is a question mark. This, to my belief, you know, Colin Sexton is there. Solid piece. He's a six-man starter fringe on a really bad team. You could sign Austin Reeves. Everything else is a question. You don't even know what your rebound is looking like. They're gonna get rid of those black and yellow jerseys, right? You got to get something exciting. You got to get something that puts fans in seats. And while I'm not sure if Asar is gonna love Salt Lake City, Utah, but
Guys
man,
supposedly love it.
I just can't pass. I love to see different mock drafts and big boards where they have Asar because I have him top 4, and I'll get into that in a second. But Asar to me has a potential to be a better NBA player than his brother, and of course people will tell you that. Of course they're twins, and obviously different positions. But in terms of maybe the safest, like confident athlete, like functional athlete in this class, that's just going to be at least a good role player. And when you look at the history of pick 9 and even this tier of picks, you can either get a guy that is a bust, you can get a safe role player like a like a 3-and-D wing that's going to be $15 million man for years and years, or you can swing the fence. And this is the last guy that really has possibly superstar potential. So you got to go with Sar Thompson here. I believe that he's the better defender over his twin. I believe that he's the better shooter. Obviously, I believe that he's even on ball. On ball. Now, this is something that people are going to kill me for. On ball, I do believe Asar is not more of a threat than Amin Thompson. But Amin Thompson's so creative. He works with White Chocolate and Jason Williams. These guys have the craziest confidence to get the balls, to get passes in the closest gaps in the funkiest spaces. I'd rather have a Sar Thompson to close out a game and to make the right read than his brother. Obviously, it's easy to say, wow, this guy won MVP, City Reapers. He can close out clutch moments. The competition levels subpar. We can go on and on about that. But in terms of being, you simply cannot stop his first step. In terms of being an on-ball threat, offense, and then being a defensive just lockdown, 1 through 3. That is a Star Thompson. So, I just want to see from Utah real quick. I just want to see some better jerseys. I just want to see Walker Kessler shoot more threes, and I want to see a pass first point guard to get everybody going. That could be a really exciting, fun team if they build that around. They have a lot of picks. Obviously, they finesse Minnesota, but we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of things you said about Asar. I am doing currently a deep dive of him, and I'm super excited for him to propel a little bit up from my board. So I think the defensive stuff is insane for him. So this is the only time, and you mentioned pass first point guard just now at the end of that little part about Utah. And there is one available on the board. And this is the only, I'm putting it out there right now. This is the only time the entire rest of this episode that I'm going to go off of what I would not do. And the reason is because I think the fit is better. So actually, I'm technically not, because I do think the fit is good. And if I'm the GM, I think the fit would be better for my team currently. And for in the future, I'm going to go with a guy that I may be a little higher on. The guy at 6 for me is still on the board, even after I'm about to make this pick. And obviously, being 40 minutes in here, I want to also make sure we can get to the back half after the lottery and kind of hit through this pretty quick.
We'll pump through this. I got you.
So Dallas needs a guy that can be. They need Jalen Brunson. Let me just put that out there.
Desperately.
They need a Jalen Brunson, and I think Anthony Black is a pass first point guard that's really, really good. So I'm taking Anthony Black because I think, again, there's only 3 guys in this class. By the way, not the highest on Anthony Black consensusly, not as close as not as low as one of my guys. My Everything College Basketball podcast team. He has him at 26 currently, and every Arkansas fan on Twitter completely destroyed him. But thanks for the engagement.
26.
I actually, after he explained it to me, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of makes sense, but it does. It's less about 26. It's more about there's things about guys ahead of him that he likes better, which is what I hate about this class.
I get what you're saying.
Like I'm the guy that's 6th on my board is currently still available, and for both of us. And I am letting him free fall because I think the fit for the team I'm going to take him with is better. So anyway, Anthony Black, I think the connecting piece, he's he's the second guy I mentioned that were connecting pieces. I don't throw that around very lightly. I think there's 3 in this class. This is number 2. Anthony Black can do a lot of things. I think the shooting is going to be the biggest question mark for me long term. But right now, Dallas doesn't really need him. They need him as a on ball dominant creator that can get Luka the ball and vice versa. So I'm going to go with Anthony Black at 10 to Dallas.
I have a question for you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love that. Anthony Black back in Dallas, from the area, was
Mm-hmm.
a AAU warrior. Really,
I
that
didn't even
guy.
think about that. I forgot about the connection to where he's from. So that's actually, there
And
you go. Another reason.
right. And just real quick, just a question I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of draft history, talking prospects here, solely just prospects, has there been anyone with the same build, the 6'7" pass first point guard, that had such, I hate using this phrase, but I'm gonna say it, that had such a high feel for the game, like a Giddy, like a Lonzo Ball, like a Cade, like Anthony Black, that you thought that was just gonna be, I'll say a jumbo initiator, right? I'll say jumbo initiator, jumbo playmaker that just failed.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, technically you said him, Lonzo Ball, because of the injuries, but that's a cop out.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no,
I'm a
no,
Lakers fan.
no.
Of course, I'm not saying it. They traded him away, and then he ended up blowing out
Okay.
his knees, and he might never play again. So it's technically a fail, but it's not his fault.
Yeah.
How
I
about I
need him.
table that? Because honestly, there's probably a really good answer that is Penny a bad answer? I mean, he worked out.
No, no,
That's what I'm saying.
no,
I don't think
no.
are you asking me a question that you know that there's not a good answer to?
No,
Because
no, I
okay, all
really
right.
don't.
It
I
seems like
really
there's not
don't.
a good answer.
Mhm,
They probably work out more than they probably don't. Six,
mhm,
7 playmakers, basically 6, 7
mhm.
ball handlers. So
And like Sean Livingston, who else was that
and
lengthy?
again, another injury guy. That's crazy that
Oh
there's
man,
you keep
damn.
rattling off injury guys. 6, 7 guys that get hurt. I mean, he had like okay. First of all, though, it was like
Oh
1 in a
man.
million thing. Like, he literally snapped his leg in half. He shouldn't have never played again. That's like again, he is a guy that I'm so thankful worked out.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, no, you keep naming all these guys, and I'm like, well, they all have their own injury thing, but at the same time, they all did work out as a pro. So
Oh
I think the
man.
answer is no. I don't know. I think there's so many of those guys that work out. So honestly, without thinking, someone's going to be aggregating this right now and be giving me a guy off the top of my head. But you know,
For sure. No, I got you. I just had to ask because
I am
I
lower
just
on Anthony Black, though. I do think that there are things that are concerning, but I think he also fits a lot of teams very well, which is why if I'm Dallas, this is a great pick because he fits the team immediately and for the future. So
mhm.
I mean, some of the stuff we saw the flashes from as a scorer in Maui when he played the Maui Invitational in November. I mean, that was
No,
30
no
points
help.
multiple times. Yeah, exactly. So we know what he can do when he's asked to do it, but he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
This is a
And
weird position where you have Orlando's second pick in the lottery via Chicago. I took Keontae as Orlando's previous pick. For those listening, this will not be the only instance where one of us has one pick. You mentioned Indiana earlier. I looked at it. You have Indiana's 7th. I have Indiana's 26th, and then you have Indiana's 29th. So it's going to be really weird. We're going to be picking each other's team, but this is another instance where that happens. Orlando pulls the wool over Chicago's eyes and gets their second lottery pick. So with the Vucevic trade. So Orlando, I'm ready to
that's
hear it
fine.
because I took Keontae. Like I said, he probably would have been available here at 11. Let me just be clear. But I know you mentioned before we recorded that you like him. So Keontae is not there. Who are you taking for Orlando?
Yeah. Lock in Keontae George being Orlando Magic. This is
Yeah, whether
recorded.
it's 6 or
So
11, it's going to happen.
so
Yeah.
lock that in. If you know, you know. Shout out Mac Miller. Um, man, I really want to take Taylor Hendricks here. I really do. Taylor Hendricks, the PJ Washington, Christian Wood, best of Christian Wood-esque type of combo type of forward. I just really struggle with him being I've, like his decision making is just so bad. I hate saying sounding that low on guys knowing that they have superstar potential or star potential. That wait, remember what I said? That's what the tier star. He has star potential. I don't think he's going to be superstar. Let me make that clear. Taylor Hendricks is just not. He's not as mobile. I'll say this. Shout out to UCF. Shout out to UCF.
Shout out to
They
UCF.
they they
Taco
they
Fall. Yeah.
they started running Taylor Hendricks pick and roll, knowing that scouts were picking up his steam, his draft steam, and they said, okay, how can we make this man make our school look good, and how can he make himself look good? And in terms of being the most slow Spurs like dribble handoffs and pick and stalls, look a pick and roll that stalls, and the roll man holds the ball, and everybody cross screen action, elevator screens, baseline screens, and here comes Taylor Hendricks, coming around, shot fake, two dribbles, pull up mid range or dump down. He looked like a star, and that was not a thing at the beginning of the season. Sorry for that long tangent here. Let me speak on the mic again, but literally, Taylor Hendricks, man, would be a great fit. Would be a great fit, but then Grady Dick is still there.
There it
And
is.
Grady
I
and
knew
Grady
you were
Dick.
building up to something.
And
I was like, what are we building up to? Because by
I'm
the
sorry.
way,
I'm
I
sorry.
disagree with Taylor Hendricks' fit, and which is why I didn't take him at 6
Mhm.
Orlando.
And I just Grady Dick, you know what he's gonna be. Okay, you know what he's gonna be. Team defender, solid. Actually, he's probably gonna once he. I thought it was just so funny how they put him on the shuttle, the four. What do they call that drill? He just looks super
4
goofy, super
cone or
funny
whatever.
doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
He looked
I just thought it
awful.
was so. Once he can be a little. Once he can, I guess you can't say you can learn how to be more agile, but once he can learn how to move his feet more efficiently and more effectively, he'll be a pretty damn good team defender. He's already a good team defender. That's what I'm trying to say. He's a good team defender. On ball, questionable. He's a 3-point guy. He's a shooter. He's a sniper. But man, what he provides with his size and his decision making and his confidence, I'm looking at him to be potentially an all-star one day. Now, his prototype always does not turn to be stars. They can be role players, and he can very well be a role player. But his ceiling, let's talk about his playmaking. In Kansas, they ran a super, 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 super simple offense. The Bill Self has been since the Mario Chalmers days. Nothing has really changed. I'm a UT guy, right? I've watched these guys kill our team for the past decade, 10 years plus. Grady Dick coming off a screen is the scariest thing ever. Besides in the corner, we'll talk about it in a second. Can't shoot corner threes to save his life, but he'll work on that. I'm confident he'll work on that.
Easiest
But
shot in
Grady,
basketball other than a layup.
Grady Dick is gonna be a solidified the the perfect piece at this pick, and that's why I couldn't take anybody else. I really thought about it. I was really trying to make a swing. I, I but it's just and I was the advocate saying Grady Dick might fall on draft night just because there's people with more star potential like a Keontae. I would take a case depending on what team is ahead and what team could possibly trade up. Even all these movement wings, all these shooting guard wings, the Nick Smiths, the Bryces, the Jets, the Dereeks at 10, that's not a stretch for me. But Grady Dick, man, I can't pass on him. I'm sorry. I'll wrap this up. He's super charismatic. He's a funny kid, man. Orlando's gonna have a fun team. Um, Obviously, he's gonna come off the bench. Maybe he can play a little bit of two guard once he's a little more agile, can guard a little bit more quicker guards. But yeah, for the future, that team is just so super fun. Free agents are gonna want to come there. They have their guys. Yeah, they're cooking with grease.
Yeah, I think I think shooting sells right now, and I think anything of that nature with Grady or with Jordan Hawkins or of any of those guys, I think somebody like that's getting taken with the Orlando's 11th if they don't trade it. So number 12, and then once we finish the lottery, we'll have to rapid fire because I don't want to have to put two parts out on this. I don't want to put you're good. I don't want to put people through that. I want this to be fun. I will be quick on number 12 because I would do this for the sake of a friend of the program who's named Grayson. He's been on the show many times, used to facilitate the trivia showdown finale for me. He's a diehard Oklahoma City fan. Diehard would be an understatement. And there is a big Taylor Hendricks, shout out to Thunder Chets. There's a big Taylor Hendricks push for OKC. And I think this is a literal miracle dream. I do think if he's gone, I do think that they get weird and they take a GG or a Bilal or somebody like that. I am not going to do that, but I don't think, again, predicting Sam Presti is like trying to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, it's just not happening, right? You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Very true. Very
So I'm
true.
not going to try to do it. What I'm going to do is because this is what we would do. Taylor Hendricks is the guy that was sixth on my board, and I think the off-ball defense and versatility. I won't spend forever on him because I'm planning on doing a whole piece on him very soon, on house-enterprise.com. But Taylor Hendricks is the perfect rebounding, switchable big that Oklahoma City needs. I mean, Derek Lively would be the perfect big because they need defense and they need a rebounder. But Taylor Hendricks can be everything that they need Jarris Walker to be. Obviously, they're not getting Jarris Walker unless they're moving up. And then he's also a shooter. So I think he's the perfect fit as their team. We saw improvements going from 30th in 3-point shooting for 2 or 3 years to 18th last year. I think that he's another piece that bridges them into that next step for their development. And I do think that they probably get really close to a 6 or a 7 this next year, and they make a step up. So Taylor Hendricks is my pick. I'm just glad I don't have 13 in Toronto because I don't even know what the heck's about to happen for Toronto, for you or for them. So I don't have a good answer for Toronto. So I'm very thankful that I got Oklahoma City. And Grayson will appreciate that Taylor Hendricks his pick because he listens to all the pods. So thank you for letting me have Taylor Hendricks, who now my top 10 has been all picked. So actually, just kidding. My top 10 of my 11 have been picked. Anthony Black is 13. Actually, I said that wrong earlier. So, all right. Who would you like for Toronto at 13?
Gotcha. Yeah. You just follow up real quick. You never know what Sam Presti's thinking. Shout out to him. He's a great GM.
Literally nothing. Like they could literally take Maxwell Lewis, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. If Grady's gone, that does make sense. Now, in terms of, that's another Sam Presti joke. I do believe Sam Presti made the call to come get this next man, but Spurs fans are gonna love this because I said some crazy things about Leonard Miller last year, saying that Leonard Miller. I knew DeJounte was going to get traded because he was saying some crazy things on social media, right? And he was on the court during the season. I was like, wow, this guy's not showing the body language of a Spur, right? Leonard Miller, before I even knew who he was, before I took a deep dive into his game, looked at his Instagram, said he was a point guard from Canada. I was like, okay, cool, awesome. He said he's 6'11". I said, what? Okay, let me check it out. His film was against middle school poor kids. The first 4 things I could find was super bad. It was like he was playing against small little boys, right? And then I was like, all right, well, let's find this film against like some high school competition, some better EYBL competition, right? And watch the game, the USA game, the Nike Hoop Summit game, right? Played okay. Showed some confidence. Showed a little bit of playmaking ability. He's super agile. He's the unicorn that Lamar Odom used to be, basically. In my head, that's what I thought. Right? That's what I was running with. And I said, the Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs in the 2022 NBA draft, do not be surprised if Leonard Miller is selected. And I got torn to shreds. In my defense, I do believe that he's going back home to Toronto in this mock draft. I'm not saying this because he's positionless. They do that positionless nonsense, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that just because Sam Presti pulled him out. That's what I'm believing. Sam Presti was a guy that made that call to pull him out the scrimmage yesterday, right? At the combine. I truly do believe Leonard Miller is the BPA at 13 with all these other guards, all these other wings, just because his ceiling, you truly do not know what it is. Now, there's a multitude of other options. You can go guards, you can go wings, but I saw a guy who looked like he was about to wet himself in scrimmages against prospects, against guys that he literally should be having a chip on his shoulder against. 4 turnovers in like 3 minutes. Did you watch that game? Did you watch his scrimmages last year?
Yeah, yes, they were horrid, it literally swung my decision as an undrafted free agent versus a second rounder last year.
Man, and that's just how much of a question mark these guys are. Now I was only a year deep into this draft stuff. The reason why I say he had top 10 potential, not just because of his size, not just because it was a Spurs league that he got brought into a private workout, blah blah blah. I knew that this guy was going to be a great play finisher at first. No, off rip. I knew that. And then as a playmaker at the G League, besides maybe when Scoot went out, he didn't showcase that any to little that at all. I have to wrap this up. I know we're trying to pump this through here, but Leonard Miller, as long as they have a veteran guard, Fred's gone. Fred worked his way out. He made some terrible decisions. If you know, you know.
He's probably going to Orlando for 120 or whatever it is.
Oh man, hey man, he has a chip on his shoulder for real. He's the bulldog of the NBA for real. If you know, you know. I got something else. But anyways, um, yeah, I cannot pass on anybody else, and I'm not. He is one of my guys. I'm not a Leonard Miller stand till I die, but I do believe that if he can find the right system and they can fill out just to be at the small forward, he's not a power forward being that skinny. He's not a point guard. He's not a shooting guard. He's a pure small forward that's positionless. I know that's a lot of things to follow up and to believe into, but pretty much it's like he's like I said, that Lamar Odom that just needs a little bit of refining. The shot's a little bit funky. The left hand, it looks like he's shooting like a cantaloupe or something. It's too heavy for him sometimes, but he gets it off the good flick of the wrist, and he can get it going. But sorry for taking too long. That that's my last long tangent, just because people are gonna tear me apart by saying that Leonard Miller's reaching over a bunch of other guys. I really wanted to say GG. I really wanted to say even Jalen Hood, but I have to take Leonard Miller.
Yeah, I think JHS is a really good pick there. I don't hate the Leonard Miller thing because literally after the lottery is when I start flirting with any team with them. Like Miami, I've got obviously later on at 18. Utah, I don't hate. Houston, yeah, maybe I do hate Houston. Brooklyn, Sacramento. I think at that point, those are all the picks I've got coming up. So I think none of those I think would have been bad options. So I'm really not. I am surprised. I will say I'm very surprised by that. My YouTube reaction will be very clear. But you know what though? Like he's the guy that like I love. Shout out to Tyler Rucker, a friend of the program. I could see him being the guy in a few weeks where he's like, all it takes is one. Tyler's very famous for this. All it takes is one team to fall in love with him in the lottery, and there he goes. And it's like I could totally see it being Toronto, honestly. All right, New Orleans.
We're gonna have fun pumping through these next wings.
And honestly, because of the fact that we did the lottery in an hour, we're basically gonna have to rapid fire these. So this is about 115 would be great.
I got you. Let's do it.
I start losing viewer retention after 115. So New Orleans is a playoff contender team. We obviously know that there's some issues with Zion. And plus the lottery is like people really care about the lottery. They can click off after this. And I mean, don't, but
you never know where they'll be listening from. They could be their team. So let's do it, man.
So New Orleans they're in this predicament. And I was going to take Grady Dick if he was there because they need shooting. They need some guys that they're just like, he would have been the best pick for them just from a positional standpoint. I think there's 3 clear choices here for them. I think 4 if I want to sneak one of my guys in quotation marks. But I think he'll be a better pick somewhere else. I'm going to take Jordan Hawkins because he basically fits the exact scheme that they ran at UConn. It would be the exact same similar scheme in New Orleans, and it's pro style offense. It's very friendly for shooters, as we see CJ McCollum be very successful there. I do think, and this is one of the only times I'm going to say a pick that I probably should have taken here. I do think Bryce Sensabaugh is another guy that should have been taken here probably. But I think the scoring ability of Bryce is not as valuable to them as the shooting ability, playing off of Zion, playing off of Brandon Ingram, playing off of whoever's playing point guard if they decide to go after a guy in free agency. I think Jordan Hawkins fits into any team in the lottery or any team after the lottery. And I think Jordan Hawkins is a pro that's going to be able to score. And I feel bad for every single Western Conference and Eastern Conference team, I guess, too, that's going to have to guard him and run 44 miles a game. So Jordan Hawkins is the pick, and I don't want to think twice about it because this is what I would do. So
I like it. I remember I was talking to my friend Walker. I had Jordan Hawkins in the late first round, early second in January. And he was like, hey, man, you're going to have to fix that board. Watch for Jordan Hawkins.
That's where I had him most of the year, by the way.
Yeah, watch for Jordan Hawkins to be just one of the late bloomers. He's going to have a great season, great close to the season. And what do you have? He was probably one of the more clutch players in the whole tournament, man.
Got to see him in person in Houston. It was unbelievable the kind of sets they were running for him. It was nuts.
Did you linked up with Ryan in Houston?
I did. Ryan
You
and Sam
that
Fetterman. Yeah, good guys. Shout out to
I'm
Ryan, man.
so mad. I'm so mad. I should have came. Can I tell you a quick story? This is the last quick story. I promise.
Ryan's my guy.
My my barber won Final Four tickets, and I told him I was like, "Hey man, I'm an analyst. I need to go. How much for him?" The
You know
Final
what's crazy
Four.
is they're not that expensive. Like that, you live like you could drive. I mean, it wouldn't be fun because it's really far, but
ex-
the tickets. I think I paid $200 for my bottom level tickets on Monday. That's out the
and
door. Like,
and
yeah,
I was really considering it, but I had one thing tied to that night, and I was like, man,
it
if I
sucks.
can if I can assure these tickets, and he was like, oh yeah, we'll do it, this and that. He totally forgot about me, man.
Yeah,
The man had all these notifications, forgot about me. I could have gone to the one of the best Final Fours, the best Final Four, even though the
yeah.
matchups weren't the hottest commodity.
That
Those
buzzer
were some
beater
great
was
matchups.
un
And
un like I literally not a single person in my section had their phone out. Like all of us just react. We couldn't react in time, and we were just like, "Oh my god!" And it was just the coolest thing ever.
that
Obviously,
is so
Monday
insane.
was a throttling, and then my flight left from Houston Hobby Airport at like 6:10, so that was not fun. But
Wow.
yeah, the time zone thing only being an hour behind did not help. I think we got 4 hours of sleep for that whole trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan. Ryan's my guy.
Yes, sir. He's killing on the content, even on Instagram too. Shout out to him. Um, at
We
15, I do, I
I think
do, I
we're
do.
out of the lottery now. So this is all teams that did not have to lose that hard to get these picks. So a lot of them are trades. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks that were traded at some point. So these are 9 of the next 15 picks were
Wow.
were somebody else's at one point. So this should be really fun. One of them that's not is Atlanta, and I am so glad. Another team that I am very thankful it's you picking. So go right ahead with Atlanta. Let's rapid fire these relatively.
Gotcha. You know, I got you. I do believe that Atlanta's having a fire sale. Trey Young needs to be humbled. I'm not the biggest fan of Trey Young. Not just saying that because I'm a UT guy. Not just saying that because San Antonio owns Atlanta's picks in 20, I don't even know what years, a good while from now. I do believe that the fire sale is starting this summer, and you got to go BPA if that is the thing. I'm taking Jalen Hood Safino. Now, there's a lot of
Dang it.
options.
Dang it. It's not. No.
I'm
Okay. All right. I was
sorry.
prepared for that. I was prepared for that.
I'm
It
sorry. I'm
sucks, though. It
sorry.
really sucks.
Wait. No, no, no,
Ah,
no. No. I was about to say. I forgot something else. I got taken. Never mind.
no,
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
good. I
Jalen
was
Hood. Jalen
prepared.
Hood. Jalen Hood. Yeah. So, I truly do believe that Jalen Hood is going to be the best. I hate putting stamps. I hate putting stamps. But this guy is going to be one of the best potential role man if he lands in a role man position that is going to be like a 6 man, Emmanuel Quickly, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White type of guy. I can see him being a starter, but
Yeah.
him landing with a good team. Let's say I know we're talking about Atlanta here, right? But say he lands with a good team, right? Like say the Lakers, 2 picks later, right? That'd be cool.
Would love that. Would love that. You would have had to be the one to make the pick. That's the funniest part about it. By the way, typically he
Man,
would not have
I'm
been available at
sorry.
17. I was taking him at 16 to Utah. That was 100% happening, which is why
For
I said, dang
sure.
it.
I
Yeah. So
got you.
Utah, he was gone, like without a doubt. So,
I'll land that plane here. I'm taking Jalen Hood. I do
so
believe he
good.
has the best potential. Yes. So yeah.
He's so good. The size, like you mentioned size guys earlier, 6'6", 6'7" point guards. Like he's going to be
Mhm.
another one. I think he's just going to work out. Like we named all these guys that other than injuries, they were good players.
Mhm.
He's just going to be another one. I think he's going to be awesome. So, yeah, he
Yeah.
was 100% being picked in Utah just now. If you did not do that, so very glad for Atlanta there. Not who I probably would have taken for Atlanta, but I do like that. Basically, you're getting Trey Young insurance. So,
Mhm.
this is going to make. If you had told me, I'm just going to. This is how I'm going to say the pick, and I'll be quick. If you
Mhm.
had told me in October that I was taking Kobe Buffkin over Nick Smith Jr. 16th to Utah, I genuinely, again, this is why I love mocks. This is what I would do. I saw too many things from Nick Smith that concerned me that Kobe Buffkin was consistent all year at doing very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Rim finishing being one of them. Being a defender is another one. There's a lot of things that I like about both of them, but Kobe Buffkin, I think, is going to shock people. And I think if I really deep dived him here in the next month, like I plan on, I think he's probably going to be a lottery guy for me. Just throwing that out there early before my last big board of the year. I'll probably have him in the lottery when it's all said and done on a big board, but I think there's just too many. I don't want to say connecting pieces again. I think there's 3 guys in this class, and I think he's just on the fringe of a guy that just is a guy that if he's not doesn't have the ball, he's going to be able to find a way to get the ball and be effective. But Kobe Buffkin fits Utah's scheme very, very well. I do think that's very important. Some of the stuff that Will Hardy runs, so I do think he'll be a very good pick for them. And I think he's a good positional defender. So I don't want to overthink it. Jalen Hood-Schifino was there also. Nick Smith, and then there's a couple other like, do they want to take like the Usman Jang type guy last year that Oklahoma City took? Like, are they in the position to be like, because they're not going to make the playoffs anytime soon, I think, but are they in a position to go after a younger guy, like a really young guy, like a Bilal Coulibaly, a Gigi Jackson? I think they were kind of in play for one of those guys too. So I don't think there's any bad pick for Utah at 16, and I do think they make the pick. So I think Kobe Buffkin's the right pick.
Safe floor. Very safe floor.
Yes,
super efficient guy.
I don't like to lean on the floors of guys all the time, but when you're a team like Utah that doesn't really need the ceiling right this moment, I don't see any reason why he's a bad pick. Atlanta, you took JHS. I have to make sure I write that down. So outside the lottery, we took JHS and Kobe Buffkin, and then as sad as this is, you're going to be taking the Lakers pick right in front of me. So good luck.
Would you take Derek Lively here?
That's a great question. No, probably not. I think there's too much wing depth in this class that I think that they
yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Based on my own board, I think there's an obvious answer here for what the Lakers would, could, and should take here. But I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset if you took Derek Lively. Is that what you want to do? What do you want to do? I'll comment if you don't do it. If you don't do it,
the reason why I feel like Derek Lively is the evident answer, in my opinion. I'm not a Laker fan. Right? But what's the center rotation for you guys right now? It's Anthony Davis and who else?
Wenyen Gabriel, and if he's healthy, Mbamba. So great point. Derek Lively needs to fit right in. I'm with you. I think it's a great choice. I think there's a guy that the Lakers would, could, and should take, and I'm going to take him in Miami if you don't take him now. So take Derek Lively because it's just going to be gone. Like the guy I'm taking, it's another situation where I'm taking the pick next. So I'm just going to take the guy.
I just believe that, the Lakers, I think that they're going to try and re-sign D'Lo. Austin Reeves is gone. Austin Reeves is gone. Good as gone. Probably going to Utah, honestly.
They can only offer him 4 for $40. I know, but it's
and then sorry. I know that's how I feel as you sip your Lakers cup. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I mean they literally can. It's a financial thing. They can only offer him 4 for $40, and he's going to take 4 for $80 somewhere else. So it's a simple math problem at that point.
And then if you want to actually, you're the Lakers guy. Talk about their wing depth and maybe who you would take to replace the gaping holes that you have. Because I would just say that they can maybe swing on like some low end, minimum guys that they, like LeBron always calls at the last second, that can fill those roles. And I'd rather have a Derek Lively that could be the third string turn to be the second string. But if I feel dumb knowing that I know who you're about to pick with this next pick. If you want to just go ahead and just say it, so I can wrap this.
It's so ironic. It's so ironic that you literally were talking about Austin Reeves and the wing depth, and yet as he hits a sidestep 3-pointer to cut it to less than 10 in the fourth quarter, and then never mind, Jeff Green just hits a lot. All right, whatever. Jamal Murray hit 3. So Denver's doing the same thing they did last game, and I'm going to be miserable the rest of the night. So with Miami's 18th pick, here's how I'll land your plan for 17, and then we'll keep going. The fact that Jet Howard's available at 18 is ridiculous, and he fits Miami. And this is what they should have done with Caleb Houston when I thought they promised Caleb Houston the Michigan connection to Miami and Jet Howard, obviously, in Miami and Michigan. I thought they were going to give Caleb Houston a promise last year, and they didn't, or they did, and then they didn't take him. Magic got him at 32. If Jet Howard's available at 18, first of all, it's a travesty. Second of all, he's, by the way, 10th on my board. This is 8 spots for me, getting him value here. And I think he fits Miami really well as a wing guy, and I think he'll develop into a better defender than we think. And I think he fits LA just as well. So I think the fact that I get him at 18 and then you didn't take him, I'm okay. I like Derek Lively. I saw him in person. Saw him courtside this year. I mean, Derek Lively's as big and as good as you think he is. So shot blocking is insane. I mean, I just ridiculous guy. So I'm happy with both picks, 17 and 18.
Shout out to, a lot of Heat fans that have been in my mentions. I was in a space a couple weeks ago, and they brought up, hey, like there's a draft guy here. Let's talk about draft prospects. Pretty much they questioned what my knowledge is in terms of guys who have heart. Because if I said somebody who was super soft, or someone who maybe had a bad mentality or attitude, I said GG Jackson to the Heat would be cool, because Pat Riley would teach his man how to not be,
That would be a
super
culture shock for sure.
right,
That
right.
would be a big culture shock for sure.
And I'm taking him with the next pick with the Warriors, and
I
that's
was wondering
just
where you were going with this. I like
that's
that. Okay.
that's that's just as big of a culture shock, right?
I like
But
it. They've got nothing to lose. I mean,
and
yeah.
and GG Jackson, man, I talked to a couple guys that saw him in person, just private workouts, and let me tell you, man, his on-ball ability at his size is better than a lot of guards and wings in this class. At South Carolina is just as hard to watch as Pepperdine and Max Lewis, man. It was just tough, very tough. They play AAU basketball there. And at the end of the day, he knew that. And he knew he can get his shots. He can pretty much check himself into games when he wanted to. And ideally, like, if you're in a system where it's a championship pedigree, Jonathan Kuminga is probably not going to be there. James Wiseman worked himself out. And in terms of having anything and everything, in terms of your dreams come true, you're playing with Stephen Curry potentially. If you can just turn it up on defense, if you can lock in mentally, and if you can just learn how to play a system-oriented basketball, it's going to give you an open three, big fella. That's what you like, right? That's what you like, right? Face-up game, all that. On the bench, in terms of fit, I went BPA, but in terms of fit, GG Jackson off the bench for the Warriors. Okay, say let's Jonathan Kuminga sticks around, right? You have your shooter in Patrick Baldwin Jr., right? You have your freak athlete in Jonathan Kuminga. You have your combo guard / point guard / we don't know what he is / well, I'm sorry for saying this. He was a draft Twitter darling, and Draymond knew that, and that's why Ryan Rollins is picked, right? Moses Moody, good shooting movement wing. You need that face up scoring power forward, not toolsy, not super raw, but knows his game, and that's GG Jackson. So I'm not gonna land that plane there.
I hate every single pick for Houston here from a fit standpoint, except for one, and he's not a guy that's anywhere near this on my board. So I'm just going to deviate from that logic. You took GG, and I was going to probably take him soon anyway.
Brooklyn is too nice.
I don't think Bilal is going to be at 20, by the way. I do not think that will be real. I do not think that will happen. I do not think he will be available at 20 for any team.
Do you know that he's 6'8"?
I think that's amazing. Bilal Coulibaly being 6'8", I think it's awesome. What was he supposed to be, 6'6" anyway?
6'6".
Oh, so he's oh yeah. I mean, this kid's gonna be gone. Yeah. Okay, so he's gonna swoop him up, and I'm gonna look like an idiot. I don't like any of the fits that I wrote down for Houston now that I'm looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marcus Sasser, who I'm not taking, we just put it out there. I think Marcus Sasser's a great pick. I don't want to sit here and take like the Jarris Walker hometown thing again.
That would be cool. That'd be fitting.
But they do need a point guard if they're going to figure. If everyone on the table is on the table, including Jalen Green, I don't know who the heck to pick. I'll be honest with you. So I'm going to take the upside of if they keep this team together and continue to build. I hate this pick because I don't think it's a perfect fit, but it's the only fit on my board left that I think makes any sense. I hate everything. I probably should just reach really far down and just be like this guy, but I'm not going to do that. City Sissoko. I don't think he needs to be this amazing, but I think he fits perfectly. He's a transition scorer that's really, really good and spot up. He's a guy that can play really good defense, and I just don't want to take anything away from Tari Eason. But I also think I don't want to take shots. Who I was going to take Bryce Sensabaugh potentially. I think he would take too many shots away from some of those guys on the team, and it's already a shot chucking fest in Houston. So I think less shooting would be actually a better thing for them, which is why City Sissoko is, and who, by the way, is a decent shooter. So I think it'll come together very well for him. I think I'm just taking defensive upside and transition upside. So,
and he's also 6'8". I would love City to be a Spur and for them to trade up. I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow on the timeline. That's crazy. I love the fit with Houston. Basically, he's the positionless wing / secondary playmaker that they desperately need, knowing that a lot of guys are outside their role. And I can see that happening. I potentially that honestly could be a thing. That is definitely a target that they should be looking at 20 if they do keep that pick. I know they're probably going to move it though.
Yeah, 21 and 22 is literally Brooklyn back to back. So let's just make this one quick since we're getting
I got
close to an hour 15.
I got you. I'll take Bilal just because BPA and just for
That's perfect because he literally doesn't he doesn't make sense. He makes sense everywhere, and the fact that he's just there at 21, I mean, yeah, I was gonna take him at 22 and you didn't. So yeah, ultimately we're working together on this one a little bit. That pick for Bilal, we've talked about him already plenty, and he hasn't even been picked yet. So you make my life easier with 22. So
yeah, you can go ahead with 22.
I think you made my life easier because now I'm looking at it. I'm like, damn, I don't know. I really like Trace Jackson Davis, but I also think Deron Holmes needs to play more. Not Deron Holmes. Daron Sharp, excuse me. Daron Sharp, their backup. Yeah, their backup.
You got me hype. You got me hype. I thought you were taking Holmes there.
I think Trace Jackson Davis is good. No, I got him somewhere else. Assuming you don't take him now. I accidentally spoiled my own stuff there. I like Derek Whitehead for Brooklyn. I think the defensive potential there is insane.
There.
Yeah, Derek's been available for a while.
There.
I love Derek. He's been one of my guys. I had him at 4 up until mid-January, by the way. So talk about my guys. I literally think he's that good. Yeah. And I was in on him most of that. And obviously I had to taper my expectations. And I think that's what I'm going to take. I'm not going to overthink Derek Whitehead. I've talked about him 1,000 times on this podcast. So I think we're up to you at Portland.
Yeah, I have to take Bryce here. I have to take Bryce Sensabaugh. I know Nick Smith is on the board. There's a couple other options in terms of guys. I'm so sorry for not speaking to the mic. I'm so sorry. But in terms of guys who, man, I would just feel so dumb just passing on. I think Bryce is up there. Bryce, I learned this early on. I learned this super early on in the draft process. Buy in on guys who are built like football players. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct
me if I'm wrong. Do prospects hide their builds during the draft process?
I think it would be insane too. I mean, unless you're, I know that there's this article floating around right now, or analytic test of guys that are hiding their standing reach versus their vertical. And if it's wrong, that guy's going to get dragged through the mud and probably never be able to be a reputable person ever again. But at the same time, it does seem very legit. So I do think guys do play the system a little bit. But if you're going to play the system, why would you play it with certain things and not others? So I don't know. I think guys do it. I think I'd be dumb to say they don't.
I'm realistically just talking about, guys that aren't necessarily just strong in their core. Guys that have what you call butt guts, a soft stomach. You're able to get pushed around. You don't have any hip fluidity. You don't have any hip movement. You can't swivel. You can't change directions quick. Also, I'm looking at your chest, big fella. You got a bird chest. Are you soft? Can someone get an elbow in your chest and you move off balance? Look, it's the same thing. Bryce Sensabaugh is solid. Bryce Sensabaugh is probably, man. So let's talk about pure built athletes. Scoot's first in this draft. Cam Whitmore's probably second. Jerace is up there. Bryce is right there. And in terms of being a 3-level scorer, I really wish I could have seen him next to Malachi. That would have been fun, even though the fit is a little bit funky in terms of their versatility and what they bring both to the table. That would have been fun to see, but I got to wrap it up. Bryce at Portland at 23. He's not falling to 23, so
yeah,
I decided
probably
to take
not.
Him. Yeah.
As low as I am on him, I don't think he's falling to 23. Remind me just to make sure I got the notes right, so when I read it back at the end, 21 for Brooklyn. You took
21. I took. Damn, what did I take?
I don't remember either. That's why I'm asking. 22. I took. I don't remember now either. I took Derek Whitehead, I think.
All I know is that I'm just gonna say the names that are available: Nick Smith, Chris Murray. I took Bilal. I'm sorry.
That's right. You're good. I just wanted to make sure I had it right. I took Derek Whitehead, if that's correct.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think that was. All right. Bilal Coulibaly. All right. So Sacramento at 24, I'll make this quick. This is where I take Deron Holmes. I literally talked on a podcast with somebody recently, and I think they needed a Deron Holmes in the playoffs, and they probably beat Golden State this year because they don't have a big outside of Sabonis. I think he's got unbelievable motor. I think he fits Mike Brown's system amazingly. Deron Holmes is the pick. I'm not even going to spend too much time on it. I love Deron Holmes. I have been a Deron Holmes first rounder guy the entire year, have not wavered. I think I had him at 31 at one point in October. but like all year I've been Deron Holmes first
Salute.
round. I like how you perked up when I said it earlier. I wanted to make sure I
Mm.
took him because I like
Mhm.
Deron Holmes, and I think Sacramento is the only place left that I have a pick for that makes any sense.
Salute to you. I am indeed a Deron Holmes truther. There were times, he showed a little bit of offensive flashes of saying, "Oh, I can step out and shoot. I can play
There's
make a little
times where
bit."
I wish he would channel the defensive motor that he literally doesn't turn off ever for 40 minutes, and I wish he would channel it into developing his post hook. But that's it. Like I literally have no other flaw that I'm like grilling him for. um,
I I I need to see his measurements. I that's what I need to go look into. I'm struggling to know if he can play a solid small ball five. Do you think he can in the NBA?
pulling up his measurements right now, even though I don't want to spend forever on measurements because I could go down a rabbit hole really quickly. uh, he measured up at 6'9", 6'9"
Okay.
without shoes, so he can definitely
Yeah.
that's almost 6'11" with shoes. 221, 7-foot wingspan, 9-foot one standing reach. Yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
fine.
This
Yeah.
is testable.
Smaller hands than I
That
would like, but that may
that's
explain
that
some of the offensive stuff in the post.
that sounds like a first rounder. That sounds like a first rounder to me.
I've been
So
saying it all
stat
year,
that.
and I got the chance to take him. So Memphis is in a
Stat
weird
that.
spot. Who you have at 25? Memphis is in a really, really weird spot. So who are you taking at Memphis as they've swung on these guys recently? Zaire Williams, David Roddy, Kenny Lofton, Jake LaRavia, who they made a promise to at 19 and took him, and we haven't seen anything yet. So what are you taking for Memphis here? I think they probably trade this pick, to be clear. But
Yes, I do have to agree with you on that. But guess what, man? John Moran is just screwing everything up. All the vibes, all the intro music vibes, all those things are just down the hill, man. And not gonna get too into it, but I do believe that Tyus Jones is um is possibly gonna ask for a trade. He wants a new role, and the only I'm not gonna call Nick Smith a combo guard today, but I do believe Nick Smith could be a combo guard, and he's definitely the VPA. I did see this coming a long time ago. I've questioned not just because of the injury, but why is Nick Smith consistent top 10 at the beginning of the season? Just because he's a popular name? Just because he got there first? I don't know. And literally, I watched the Arkansas scrimmage versus UT. He actually got some run in that game. Believe it or not, no, that was during the time when he was hurt. He got some run. Looked a little riveled. Looked a little shook. Basically, the confidence of Nick Smith and the what's the word I'm looking for? The role is pretty much going to solidify if he's going to be anywhere near a star, anywhere near a 15, 16 point per game threat. Um, I'm glad the Keontae George versus Nick Smith arguments are over. I do see him falling on draft night, probably to one of these Brooklyn picks, maybe. Honestly,
yeah,
there's going to be a
honestly, I'm
lot of
surprised one
movement.
of us didn't take him, but Bryce was available. I think that's correct, and I think
Mm,
that's probably why we took him.
Yeah, so I'll go with that's crazy, 25. Yeah, but
I could see it though.
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair at the end of the day.
I could also
So
see
yeah.
Oklahoma City taking him at 12 because they love him and they like the pedigree. Like I could see it. I wouldn't be shocked.
Oh man, yeah,
Speaking of
that would be
shocked,
something.
as we finish out the last five picks here pretty quickly,
Mhm.
um, I'm gonna shock you with this one because if you're not in on this guy or you're not ready to like haven't seen his film maybe, which I think you sound like you've watched a ton of these guys and I trust
Mhm.
you. James Najee is going to be a first rounder this year, and it's going to blow people away. Yeah, virtual high five. Thank you. James Najee, Indiana, super, super careful team, assuming they make this pick, even though it's their third first rounder. Um, you'll have their 29th or second first round. You'll have their 29th in just a second. Indiana
Mhm.
needs a backup big, and I think this 18-year-old guy who's playing meaningful minutes, not a lot of meaningful minutes, but meaningful minutes in one of the best teams in one of the best leagues in the world in FC Barcelona. I mean, could literally break any backboard at any point. That kind of strength, that kind of physicality, the pick and roll ability. I think the defense is legit. I think this kid is unbelievable, and I do not care that people are going to see this and say how many points per game. Don't care. He's unbelievable, and I think Indiana is the perfect spot for him left that I had. I would have also taken him at 28 to Utah, but I was scared you were probably going to take him. So 26 Indiana. I'm gaming the system a little bit, being scared of another pick that's one pick later that I could have taken, but Indiana I think is James Najee. What I would do
I,
anyway.
I strongly do believe James Najee is going to be potentially. He has. I can't say this. I got to reword that. He has the potential to be the second best big in this draft. and he very well could be. He
I
very
love
well
that.
could be.
I love
He
that
very
because
well could
there's
be.
there's like some uncertainty of a lot of these guys, and then
Mm-hmm.
he's just got this like brute force that just doesn't make any sense. So, all right,
Mm-hmm.
27.
Gotcha.
Let's land the plane. 27.
I I'm going to go with Chris Murray just because I believe that Maxwell Lewis isn't safer than Chris Murray. Now, Chris Murray, I believe PJ Washington's gone. I believe a lot of their other forwards aren't necessarily ready to for consistent rotation minutes. JT Thor included. Kai Jones is not a center; he's a power forward, small forward now. I think he's trying to go outside his game now. Um, and Chris Murray is the safest bet, two-way guy. Obviously, you would love to see him in Sacramento, but you didn't take him. So, uh,
Thought about it very, very hard, but they need a big more than they need Keegan's brother. So,
who'd you take again?
Deron Holmes in Sacramento.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
They
Love it.
needed Deron Holmes more than they needed Keegan's brother, but I'll promise you
Mm-hmm.
this. If Chris is there, which he probably will be, they
Mm-hmm.
probably look past the center stuff. They probably think they can get a Richwan Holmes type, which they have obviously, but they can probably get like a big like that in free agency, which is probably true. So I think
Mm-hmm.
they're probably taking Chris because the Mobley brothers got put together last year and Isaiah was like a 48th pick or whatever. So I think they probably do it. Chris is a first round talent.
To make it fair, do you remember Caleb Johnson?
I think so. The name rings a bell. I don't know why I wouldn't.
Caleb Johnson, brother of Kelly Johnson, got too much run with the Austin Spurs, and boy, he
Oh
took
yeah,
himself out the game himself because he was getting booed.
that's funny.
Woo! That's another story another day. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
All right, I like Chris Murray to Charlotte. I think I had a couple of other interesting pieces there, but I think they'll probably get taken
Oh
here soon.
man.
Um, Utah's interesting. Like I said, I would have taken Najee there. I think Trey Alexander's a good shout. Also, who I think is a first round talent. Jalen Clark. I think Azuolas Tubelis is not a bad pick here either, but I think he's going to go. That's way higher than he
Mm,
probably. I've had him in the first a little
mm.
bit here and there. I've had him. He'll probably end up being in the mid to late 40s by the time I'm done. There's another scoring guard that I'm gonna take at 30, probably out of sheer selfishness. So I'm gonna take the guy that I think makes the most sense, and I'm actually going off of the fits that I wrote down initially, just because of what I think makes more sense at 28. I am leaning on. I'm talking in a circle here. Never mind. I just talked myself out of it out loud. I don't know. Why isn't Colby Jones the good pick for Utah? Right? Like
He
he's
is.
a big guy, big whatever, but I think Trey Alexander is a better pick. I think I like Trey Alexander for the fit in Utah. And I love Colby Jones. And I'm going to be really sad if you don't take him at 29 because I think he's a first round talent and a first round grade on for me. But I think Trey Alexander, just the pick and roll ability, also a 6'10 wingspan, just doesn't make sense for a guy of that stature. So I think he just fits what they're trying to build. And I just think Trey Alexander also is going to develop as a pick and roll scorer too. So I'm going to take Trey Alexander. I think he's really good.
I'd need to look more into Trey Alexander film. That's one of I think the 4 or 5 guys I have in my notes that it's just like, especially now that we got Wimby, I'm just like, I don't even know. I mean, I don't even
I'm
have the
with you.
time to do a deep dive. But
He
I'm
didn't make sense. He didn't make sense at 29 for Indiana, first of all, because
mhm.
they have literally his exact clone in Andrew Nimhard. So it was like one of those things. I'm like, I knew you probably weren't taking him, and the Clippers don't need him. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. I think he's probably not the perfect pick here, but I had to because I think he's that good this year. And I really think the scoring ability is so much better than Colby's from a pick and roll standpoint that I just feel like that's what sold it for me. And I think it was 50-50 on those two there.
It's
So
very true. Yep, that's
Indiana,
very good.
and then I've got LA Clippers, and then we're out of here.
And then we're done. Woo. I had a great time though.
Yeah,
This was fun.
that'd be too. Your final pick with Indiana via Boston. I have not been saying the vias in this, but Indiana via Boston. Again, they probably don't have this pick later on in the draft.
The Brogdon trade. That's crazy. Wow. Now, as long as you do not take Ryan Rupert with 30, I'm cheating. I'm
I am
sorry.
not. The Clippers do not need
Thank you.
do not need an 18-year-old wing that can't shoot. So
Even with Batum there, come on now, they're
they don't need an 18-year-old wing that can't shoot. They need a guy that if Kawhi and Paul George have 2 years or less left, they need guys that can play tomorrow. So Brad Rivera is not a guy that can play tomorrow. Let me just put that out there.
Thank you.
Not a
I
hot take, but
appreciate
yeah,
it.
they will not. I will not be taking the clip. I will not be taking him for the Clippers.
Well, if Maxwell Lewis is still available, I may have taken him in a couple of your slots above, a little bit earlier in the draft. But if he's
Somehow he has
available,
not been picked. Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's
I
okay.
like what you're
That's
saying, but I
okay.
think there's like places he could have been, like him over Kobe Buffkin at 16 to Utah. I don't hate. Yeah, that's tough.
I don't know about that. No. I think that literally, I should have to say this
Fallen.
first. The reason why I'm saying this, and I'll wrap this up, is because I want Ryan Repair to fall to us to the Spurs at with their first second round pick.
It's not
Uh,
impossible. It's really
and
not.
and I'm so glad that it's starting to come around that he can't shoot and he's gonna need so much work because he's probably going to be a role player, a really 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 good defender, really good agile mobile defender. But I'm taking Maxwell Lewis because I know that this guy can give me a bucket. I know Pepperdine was super hard to watch. I know he's not necessarily a 3 level scorer just quite yet, but he reminds me a lot of Devin Vassell. I saw that comp first. I stole it. I don't know who I stole it from, but I will admit that. And I do believe that if he unlocks some playmaking ability and if he buys it on defense, this guy has some star potential. He has a little bit of star potential. And I get it. In the wrong system with the right head coach, you can look and actually no, you can hurt your stock. And that's what Maxwell Lewis. He just severely hurt his stock. His numbers were plummeting. Like I said, Pepperdine was terrible. It's tough super tough to watch. But Maxwell Lewis is pretty much. I think this is the evident pick here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
hate it.
So
I don't think he
yeah,
fits Indiana perfectly, but at the same time, it's just taking a bet on talent at that point, and they're in a position to do that. He reminds
definitely.
me comp that I haven't seen anybody do. I say comp. He reminds me of Steve Smith. And I don't mean
I like
Panthers wide receiver Steve Smith. I mean the Atlanta Hawks
that.
guy that couldn't shoot more than 15 feet from the basket and was like a post up guy. I think Maxwell Lewis's bag is better, but he reminds me of him. Again, reminds me of is just literally I see something out of it. All right, the
Gotcha.
Clippers. I'm gonna land this last pick here, and then get your plugs in, and everything will be linked below, and we'll get out of here. So the Clippers are in a precarious spot because I think, and I'm gonna push my agenda right now on you because you need to hear this. Another guy you need to put on your list if you have it. Jalen Slauson is an NBA pro. He will not be
Yeah.
a first. He will not be a first round pick. I am going to put that out there 100%. He will not be a first round pick, and I am not taking him here. Even though I mentioned they need guys that could play tomorrow. He could literally play like 2 years ago in the NBA. I'm taking a guy that literally should not fall out of the first, but I just see this happening, and I'm going to be upset about it as a fan. I'd mentioned to you I am from the Triangle area of North Carolina. I got to see Terquavion Smith so much this year. And you know what? I'm sick of the mocks to him and the Clippers because it just means it's not going to happen, right? Mocks of people that aren't Jonathan Givony. But Terquavion Smith is a first rounder. By the way, as of this moment, he is the 12th prospect on my board. So this is a really big fall for me as somebody who I just didn't think the fit made sense for a lot of teams ahead, as they need a 160-pound scorer, right? I don't think this is interesting for a lot of other teams. So I think that the more I think about this fit as a mock, I do think it actually makes sense. And I think he's going to be basically a better scoring Bones Highland, who I think would be very impactful for them. And I want him to be a first round pick. I wanted him to be Denver's first round pick last year at 30 before he withdrew, 2 weeks before it was due. And I had this whole thing prepared where I had my NC State shirt on. I was going to rip off my hoodie and be like, Terquavion picks Smith's a first round draft pick to Denver. And they took Peyton Watson instead. So long story short, I think Terquavion Smith is unbelievable. And to quote the awesome Nathan Grubel of No Ceilings, it's my board. I can put him wherever the heck I want. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense to look at guys and be like, wow, 12 seems high. At the end of the day, sometimes as evaluators, we have to trust ourselves. I think Terquavion Smith is that good, and I think he's going to be that good. And I think 12 is where I'm going to end up leaving him for most of this year. I'll look at that again and see as I just think he's a first-round talent, and I've rambling too much, but he is the Los Angeles Clippers' 30th pick in this mock draft.
Is he a hybrid guard? Is he in that tier where he's a shooting
Yes.
guard in the point guard's
He showed
body?
me enough this year that I think the playmaking, I know that Darion Sebron wasn't there, but I think people, no offense to anybody that I've heard say this, but there's a lot of people in the draft community that made it seem like Darion Sebron leaving. Shout out to him. He's playing very good minutes for the Squadron, the Pelicans G League team. He played on the Pelicans for a little while when they had some injuries, but they overblew the fact that Terquavion went from 1.5 assists last year to leading the ACC at one point with 4.8. We don't have to talk about that. It's a nasty low number for the ACC, but
Mhm.
he led the league in assists at one point, right? In a jump where he lost Darion Sebron as a teammate. I think people were blowing that out of proportion as somebody who's watched 30 plus games of them in person in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
I promise you, I'm probably the person that needs to be speaking on this matter as a fan my whole life and as somebody who's seen this team in person and on television for 48 plus games in the last 2 years, 48, 9 games. Like it, he showed enough passing playmaking flashes that were just, I mean, they're really good. And I think they're getting better. And I think that it will make it where he's not getting trapped as a guy that they're just going to be you need to score the ball and that's it, right? In your role. So I think he'll be able to make a defense work a little bit at trusting his playmaking, and having to kind of make sure that he's being honest with that. And then also, I think his on ball ability has gotten so good. Like, I think it from what he was as a 160-pound guy last year to what he is now, the foot speed's improved. He stayed in front of guys better. It's not perfect. I'm not saying he's this world renowned on ball defender, but he's really good. And I think that is something that improved that it stuck out to me watching it. So, um, yeah, that's it. I don't want to spend any more time on him because this will end up being a 3-hour podcast. I love Travion Smith and I hope the kid works out.
That
Super,
was a
super
person.
great kid.
That was a personal pick. You got to
It
admit that
was,
was a
but
personal
honestly,
pick.
the fit just had to land eventually, and it does make
Yeah.
sense actually. So,
And I would rather much bank on to Cravion being successful than a lot of these other guys that are in that French tier with him and that could be first rounders, second rounders. But yeah, man, I agree with you. I really think he should have gone last year's draft. I thought it was so funny. He at the shooting combine, some of the shooting drills, he really wore his jersey as a cape. He said it was distracting. You never saw that meme?
I don't
He
think I
was like he,
did.
he
No,
looked like he was Superman. He was just taking it had it literally wrapped around his neck, and he was just shooting. And he was just letting it go, letting it fire.
love it.
Crazy confidence, man. Yeah. So love the kid.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. Congratulations on Victor Wembanyama once more. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for really taking this seriously too, because mock drafts people can throw around things and this and this and that,
Mhm.
which is why I love and I guess I technically didn't tell you about the what you would do part of it until right before we started, but hopefully you prepared for that, and it seems like you did. So I can understand like why you made some of the choices you did, and got to
Mhm.
look into the lens of how you evaluate. And I think ultimately that's what I want Draft Chat to be. I don't think I ever told you the official name of this segment, episode, whatever. Like, it's a bi-weekly show called Draft Chat. This is what I want Draft Chat to be. I want outsiders perspective. That's not just me talking to myself or my friends about the NBA draft. I want this to be a place where people can really bring their ideas and help us improve as evaluators. I think that's really important, and I think I learned a lot today. So I thank you very much. Plug away. Twitter, as always, is on the screen. Every other link is in the description below. Let people know where they can find your work, and I look forward to having you back.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you as always. Yeah, so you can just follow me on Twitter at Evan Townsend underscore. That's really the only social media I have and use to promote my draft my draft analysis. Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, pretty much I just do spaces. I have a lot of threads. I post a lot of draft content, videos, pretty much my opinion what the Spurs should do. And if you want to come to my mentions, man, it is all love. I will respect you. I will analyze what you're saying. But if it is spicy, if you are literally coming at me with some nonsense, I'm gonna hit you with the meme. I'm gonna hit you with some knowledge. I'm gonna hit you with some nonsense right back. All love though. All appropriate. You know what I'm saying? It's just a great time to be a Spurs fan. It's a great time to be to be a draft analysis. Literally, I've fallen in love with this. It's part of my um, just everyday lifestyle in terms of where I want to be, what I want to do long term. Um, I'm going to the summer league for the first time in Vegas. Going to do a bunch of different camps, and literally, it's going to be such a great time. So, um, in terms of just like scouting dreams, in terms of long term goals, real quick, this is definitely like a real good hobby to pick up. So if you're ever listening, and if you ever have any interest into maybe just looking into film, I remember when Mavs draft DM me and he followed me, I was super excited, and he got me into Synergy. People want to see you win and take that next step. And post college, this was pretty much what I found myself into, what I found myself passionate about. So appreciate you as always, man. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Definitely will stay in touch. And yeah, man, if you ever need me on again, or if you ever need a reference to anybody else, I'm super cool with a lot of people on Draft Twitter. Everyone's really nice, really respectful. So yeah, I'm sure we'll work together again someday.
What I appreciated about you, we need positivity in the draft space, as there are a lot of people that do not feel that way right now. So this draft has proven to be very divisive, and I appreciate you for your candidness, and I look forward to having you back. Like I said, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching or listening, whatever platform you're on. Don't forget to drop a 5-star review, as well as any kind of rating. Thank you. Note, whatever's best. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. I'm super tired doing this super late. Thank you for all the support over the last couple of weeks on these episodes. If you enjoyed everything with Evan, all of his links in the description will be below there. Subscribe, like, comment, all of his stuff. Give him a follow on Twitter. Greatly appreciate it. Don't forget, $20 off your first purchase. Link in the top of the description. $20 off first purchase, SeatGeek.com or in the app. I'm tired. Long intro, long episode, a lot of fun. Enjoy it. Thank you so much for the support. On behalf of Evan, this has been the 2 Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. We'll see you later.